Hi, welcome everybody to the live today. You've got me, Ursula McCabe, and my trusty sidekick, or I'm the sidekick maybe, but Carrie Baker.
I can be a sidekick.
All right, let's go ahead. I know you guys got some questions, so let's get into it. All right, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so Glenn, I'm service connector for IBS at 30%. Can I claim I can never pronounce that word, as secondary? You can claim anything secondary, but you have to show a link between that condition and the IBS. As long as you can do that, you can claim it as secondary. Keep in mind, though, it may or may not increase the overall rating because you've got multiple GI issues there. They might rate them as one disability to avoid pyramiding. I'm not 100% certain how those two are rated together without looking it up. But a lot of things in the GI tract are rated together rather than rated separately because they all kind of overlap. So just keep that in mind.
All right, this is Robert, number one of, we don't know how many. Thank you for all that you do. You're welcome. Thanks for being here. I am 100% permanent and total for COPD from, looks like the date of the PACT Act, filed May 9th, 2025 for 10 more conditions as secondary aggravation to COPD. 9 have been denied, awaiting final decision for mental health. And then 2024, not 2025. All denials have stated no service connection aggravation or something to that extent. Please explain secondary and aggravation to other body systems from a service-connected ailment. Okay, so there are two different ways of getting a condition that is not the primary service-connected condition service-connected. So when you're looking at secondary service connection, it means that because of one condition, it led to the development of another condition. So that would be secondary. It is secondary to the condition, or it's a residual of that condition. When you're talking about aggravation, it's similar but different, where if you have a service-connected condition and you have another completely separate condition, but your service-connected condition aggravates it and makes it worse, then you can get service connection for it. But typically, when you're dealing with aggravation, they're going to take a look at that condition that you're getting aggravation for and say, well, without the service-connected disability, it would be a 30% rating. And now it's a 50% rating. So you're only going to get the rating for that 20%. So it's different. But they're similar, but just a little different, just depending on how those conditions are kind of at play. Carrie?
No, I mean, I don't really have anything to add to that. First and foremost, you got to, I'll add a little bit. You have to show the links to your original service connection, like Ursula said. And then there is some distinction between aggravation and secondary. But no, I think that pretty much covers it. Now, well, let me add, because I seem to always get on topic on these calls. You said you're 100% permanent total. So I would ask, what's the goal here? You're filing a bunch of more claims. Is it going to change your 100% permanent total? Is it going to give you a higher rating, like SMC of some sort? Because if it will not, all you're doing is inviting eyes to look at your case. So I just say that with a word of caution. Just take it for what it's worth. If you're 100% based on a single disability, yeah, you might can get, if you get another 60%, you might can get SMCS rating. If you're 100% based on multiple disabilities, then you can add a bunch of other multiple disabilities to that. It's not going to change anything. So just keep that in mind. You know, if you're going to be putting eyes on your case when you're already 100% permanent total.
Yep, that's a really good point. All right, you want me to read it?
I got it. Vet. Terra BOA. I guess that's Board of Appeals. It should be Board of Veterans Appeals, maybe. Remand claim SSOC. So Terra BOA remand claim SSOC. RO denies unable to identify a stressor for neurobehavioral effects. The stressor was poison explained in the nexus letters. Does the stressor pertain to PTSD only? Stay with BOA only. All right, so there's a lot of information there that I don't have. You know, if you're saying, you know, let me kind of break this down as I interpret this, and I'm filling in some blanks here. This is a Board of Veterans Appeals remand for a TERA, toxic exposure risk activity, and you're at the SSOC or supplemental statement of the case stage, which means the appeal is a legacy appeal rather than an AMA appeal. So let me jump to the last question there. Stay with BOA only. Look, I would tell anybody that if you're in the legacy process, stay in the legacy process. Your case is going to automatically go back to the Board of Veterans Appeals. If they're denying it, and this goes for any issue, if they're denying it at the local level and you switch over to the AMA, that's not changing evidence in your case. All right, the rules stay the same on service connection. You're not doing yourself any favor, and you may end up not ending up at the board automatically. You certainly won't automatically. You have to take certain steps to get there through the AMA. So yeah, I would, you know, your case is going to stay on appeal the way it is, as long as you don't switch to AMA. So yes, I would stay under legacy, and it's going to go back to the Board of Veterans Appeals automatically. Now, on to the merits of the question. You know, if you're talking about a toxin exposure as the stressor for mental health, I don't know that that's going to work. All right, that is not typically. Now, if you were in combat and you got hit with nerve agents or thought you got hit with nerve agents and that was your stressor, then that's, you know, that's obviously a little bit different. But if you were on a base and you think, and I'm just summarizing, you know, filling in some gaps here. You're on a base and you find out later that the base had, you know, TCE in the groundwater, and you file a mental health claim for that, saying that was your stressor that you found out later. I don't think that's going to work. You know, so I don't know if that's what you're saying, but you know, that's I don't know. I'll let Ursula fill in anything that I might be missing there.
Yeah, so I think I'm reading this question as the stressor is some kind of exposure or a poison in service, and they're calling it a stressor. And I think in this situation, you know, a stressor or an event in service are kind of the same thing. So a stressor is something that would happen to cause something like a mental health condition like PTSD or something like that. And it would kind of say, okay, this is the event in service. So here, I think what they're saying, and I could be wrong, but I think they're saying that they can't find the event in service that would have given you that poison in order to give you those neurobehavioral effects. And so that's really the issue here. And you're saying you have a nexus letter that says that you were exposed to this poison, and VA saying, well, we don't know that. I don't know if your Tara was negative. And it just said that, there was no exposure to anything. So I hope that kind of answers, but yes, I agree with Carrie 100%. Stay in the legacy appeal system. If you just got your SSOC, you can submit additional evidence and arguments to the board. And you should be getting a letter that's saying that it's being redocketed. And they are moving pretty quickly on the legacy claims at this point because they're trying to get them all done. So it should be a pretty quick turnaround on it. So that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah. Well, and you raised a good point there. We talk about neurobehavioral effects. Yeah, to me, that's confusing. And the reason I say that is, are we talking about neurological problems or mental health problems? Or because about the only time I see those two mix when you're talking about cognitive problems, which could be a little bit of both. So, if we're talking a physical problem, and that could be a cognitive problem,
or like a tremor, it could be a tremor or something like that.
Then you're talking about a stressor. You don't need to identify a stressor. You might need to identify the exposure. All right. The stressor is only going to come into play when you're talking about something like PTSD or, something like that. So that phrase neurobehavioral, there could be distinctions there that we don't see in your question there, but those are important.
All right. Next one. CPO deep sea diver. Does SMC K still continue at the R1.5 T level? You all are awesome. Carrie, you're the SMC guy. I'm gonna let you take it.
All right, they're no. Okay. Once you're at R, I'm assuming you're saying R1 and R2, not R.5. Because
yes, after I read it, I was like, oh, we got R1, R2, and T.
I was thinking because some people think there's some weird stuff out there. Yeah, no, look, if you're at R, it just count your blessings. I don't mean to sound, count your blessings. I would not go seeking an SMC K, but no, because you're not going to get it. I think the R supersedes everything at that point.
Yeah, like to get an R, you have to have loss of use of extremities and things like that. And those would, if you weren't at the R, might be in at the K for that loss of use. And it's like the R just kind of subsumes everything underneath it because it's, such a great benefit and such a big benefit. And I think K only pays out like what, $140 a month or something. It's negligible.
It's not. Yeah. And I just drew a blank. What I was going to say. Never mind.
All right. Well, we'll move on then. It'll come back to you. It'll come back.
All right, Alan, what do you do if you were denied a claim and then you file a supplementary claim and it says as received and closed, but you did not receive a decision on it? That sounds like the VA that we know today. We got a claim. Let's open it. Oh wait, no, let's close it. Let's not tell the vet. We see that kind of the bane of our existence sometimes. Okay, one, you're at a loss here. I'm just going to be honest. You're the client out there trying to figure some of the stuff out, and you don't know why your claim is closed. And you can't see inside their system. It's tough. You need somebody that can see inside that system and tell you what's going on. There's a number of things that could have happened, and they're all probably incorrect on VA's part. So you file a supplementary claim after a denial. One option is they think, well, you didn't give us new and relevant evidence, so we're going to close your case. and they just close it, and all of a sudden you no longer have a claim pending. Well, they do that a lot. It's incorrect because they are still supposed to give you a decision that says your claim is denied because you did not give us any new and relevant evidence. They're not supposed to just look at it and go, oh, well, we're closing the case because there's no new and relevant evidence. The fact that there may or may not be is an appealable issue. Okay, so they should not be doing business like that. We see it all the time. Somebody could have made a mistake on the supplementary claim for whatever reason and thought that, oh, that's not a valid claim form because of, any number of reasons, and just closed it and not told you about it, or sent you a letter, what's called a request for application letter, where it basically says, we received your claim for whatever. If they tell you, they may not. It just may say, we received your claim, and these claims today require to be filled out on certain forms. Here are the forms. Until we get the claim in the right form, we're not going to do anything. And you may or may not know exactly what you did wrong. You may not have done anything wrong. So you need to, I would file that claim again on the form. If you got a letter from VA on that, I would file that with them. And if there's anything you don't know that they didn't tell you, I would write that out and go, look, I don't know what you're saying here. Tell me what's wrong with my claim. Why was it closed? Ask for appellate rights. If you have a representative, have them get in the system and look that up for you, because that's really what's going to tell you what's going on with it. But yeah, we have to chase these things down, and it's a pain in the ass. And
it happens a lot now. Like we've been seeing a lot of it, and we see them where we file and it's a valid appeal, and they're like, you can't do that. And it's like, yeah, we actually can. And we have to send in letters going, yeah, we sure can, and explain why it was a good and valid claim. It's extremely frustrating. Yeah. Extremely frustrating. All right, this is me. Yeah, yes. Yeah, Muriel Morgan. If I change my selection at the board from hearing to direct, will they look at evidence up until the day of the last decision before the severance? If I choose the evidence lane, do I still have 90 days to turn in evidence? I do have an advanced on docket. I had a hearing scheduled, but it was canceled by VA. My husband is atomic cleanup vet. So
go back to that first one. Go ahead, Ursula. I just want to.
So you can change lanes if you're still within the 1 year appeal deadline of whatever rating decision it was. If you go into the direct view or the hearing, from the time of that decision to the time of filing that board appeal, all the evidence prior to that, they can look at. What they can't look at is anything submitted between the rating decision and then the board decision or the hearing docket. They all have like different evidentiary windows. So the direct, they can only look at things prior to that rating decision. They won't look at anything else. The hearing docket, they've got everything from that rating decision back. Then there's kind of a gap. So if anything goes into the record, they can't look at that. It's like a black hole. And then you've got the hearing. And once that hearing is either held or you waive that hearing, you have 90 days from that date to then submit evidence. And for the evidence review docket, you've got 90 days from the day that you file that appeal to get it in. So with all of them, there is, that rating decision really is the date where the evidentiary window closes, unless you're allowed to submit evidence either after the hearing or after you file the appeal. They don't make it easy for you to figure that out, but just know that there is a little black hole where if you send something in, they're not going to be able to look at it. Hope that answered your question. Carrie?
No, I don't have anything else.
No.
Wendy Rowland, can I file a supplemental claim to add physical residuals of Parkinson's? I was rated solely for the mental health issue caused by Parkinson's, I would likely have been 100% if all were included. All right, so this one's pretty straightforward, and anybody out there with diseases like this should pay attention here. Parkinson's disease and other things like multiple sclerosis and a few other diseases like that are normally all rated on the residuals of those diseases. And obviously with Parkinson's, the residuals could be a number of things. Could be cognitive problems, could be loss of use of the legs, or tremors or weakness of the legs and the hands. It could be incontinence problems, and the list just goes on, okay? The rating criteria calls for VA to rate all those residuals. So if they have you rated, if you got a decision within the last year that rates Parkinson's, and they did not rate all of the residuals for Parkinson's, then what I would do is request a higher level review. In other words, appeal that decision that failed to rate all the residuals. And on the higher level review, I would ask for a conference with a decision review officer. And my argument would be simple, that they rated my Parkinson's for this residual and that residual, but they missed all these others. For example, if they didn't give you an examination, or if the Board of Veterans Appeals granted the service connection and the regional office didn't examine you, or they examined you and missed half the stuff, all of those are reasons to appeal the original decision instead of filing a new claim for those residuals. Now, when AMA first came out, they were forcing people to file claims because they didn't know what they were doing. It seems like when the law changed, everybody's brain went to mush. And it didn't change how things were rated. It didn't change the VA's responsibility to address all the residuals in a case that are within the scope of a specific claim. And everything that's a part of that Parkinson's disease is within the scope of that original claim. And you should not have to file a new claim for it. They will tank your effective date if you do, and then you're going to be fighting them for an earlier effective date after that. So appeal that decision if you still can. Now, if it's been more than a year, now you're going to file an increase rating, and you have to do that on a 526. But if you can still appeal that decision within the year, I would do a higher level review unless you can't do a higher level review if you just had one. But if not, then yeah, I would ask for a higher level review, go in there and just talk to the DRO and say, look, they need to rate all my residuals. And usually they're going to send it back with instructions to get full examinations to rate everything. So that's kind of it in a nutshell on that. Anything else, Ursula?
Nope, that was perfect. It's frustrating because it's like, especially something with Parkinson's, and they should just know to rate all the residuals, and they just don't. And it's like, what are you guys doing? It's just causing more work. All right, this is Tim Kellerman. Not sure to submit a question for your insight, but I'm currently rated for 70% PTSD, depression, anxiety. They subsequently denied my claim for TDIU based on my previous denial of Social Security benefits for PTSD. They stood their ground on my higher level review with the same reasoning. Basically, they are saying Social Security says I can work, yet I have not worked since 2014. So I have seen that where they will pull all the Social Security records and say, well, that's saying that you can't work due to non-service connected conditions and things like that. And I mean, that's part of the evidence that they're looking at, but they're not supposed to just mimic the decision of Social Security. They need to make their own determination of that. And like, that's not fair. If you're in a position to where, you have evidence inside your record that shows that you can't be around people, you have angry outbursts, you can't get to work on time, you have all of these occupational and social impairments, which if you're at 70%, you have plenty of those if they've rated you at that point, then you are eligible, or not, you could get TDIU for that. One thing you could do is either just point out all the things in your record that says that you can't work, or you could always try to get a vocational expert opinion that would go through your record, pull all that stuff out, and give you a vocational opinion on whether or not you are able to work. You know, but they cannot use Social Security denial as the main and only reason for denying your claim.
I agree completely. You know, the irony here is there's no what's called Social Security rule in VA, which means exactly what Ursula just said.
They like to think there is, and you're like,
yeah. When it comes to denying a benefit for TDIU, they act like there is a Social Security rule. And when Social Security has granted disability, they go, oh, well, there's no Social Security rule, so that doesn't bind what we have to do.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get it both ways. I would, if you can get the voc rehab, I think that's the route to go. And I would just probably go to the Board of Veterans Appeals with it. You're going to have a much better shot there.
Yeah.
All right, Angel Marrero, greetings. Thank you, Helen Pont, for all you do to my fellow vets. Fight, fight, fight. Thank you, Angel. We appreciate that.
That does not count as your question, just so you know.
Pretty sure that's a statement. All right. All right. So I guess that's to me. So it doesn't account for my stock. I don't get a kick, Mr. Q, to you, huh? MQ. What is the best way to apply for TDIU rating with a 70% disability rating? I've been out of work since September 2024 due to PTSD getting worse. Before that, I worked at home for 16 years due to my PTSD. Well, I mean, look, the best way is the only way, and that's to file a VA Form 21-8940 with the VA and ask for TDIU. As far as evidence, you know, it's really what Ursula just said. One, you may not need the evidence. They're going to examine you, and they may determine through that examination that you qualify for TDIU, and then you're home free. If they don't, then you might need to go hunt some evidence on your own. But yeah, you just file the 8940 with VA to get the claim started. That's pretty straightforward. Ursula, you may have more to add to that.
Yeah, so you can, if you already have your claims on appeal, you can certainly just file the 8940 and try to get your effective date back to 2024 when you last worked. If for some reason you don't have a pending claim, I would actually probably file a 526 for an increased rating of your PTSD to include TDIU, and then submit the 8940. And that's because of the 1 year look back rule, where they can take a look and say, okay, they can take your benefits back up to a year prior to you filing that 526. Did that change with AMA, or do we still have the 1 year look back rule, right?
You mean on 3.114 or 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think
it's still there, right?
I believe it's still there.
Yeah. So I would file for the increase.
I've seen it applied since AMA. So
yeah, so I would do that. I would file for an increase and to include PTSD, because they can, let's say that you file your claim today, it's March 5th of 2025. They could take your increase or your TDIU back to March 2024. But here they probably wouldn't take the TDIU until September, because that's when you last worked. But yeah. That's it. All right. So correction, have been out of work since 2023. Also, what is the rate you normally see it being approved with your firm?
There's no rate.
I mean, every case is different, and there are some cases where TDIU might be on the table. There's some cases where it's not. And it just depends on a whole gamut of things. So, I mean, but if someone is at 70% and their PTSD is getting worse and they can no longer work, I think all of that is really good evidence for TDIU, especially, reasons for being let go and things like that.
Yeah, we see some cases granted with a single 60% and nothing else, and other ones denied with a high 90%, 10% away from 100%, and having to appeal those to the board. So you just can't use the rating that you have as that gauge.
Yeah. All right. Question 2, going to meet my doctor again this month. He thinks I should be at 100% and not 70% for my PTSD. Should I get another DBQ or is that useless? What should I advise him on and what to do? You could get another DBQ if you wanted to, and submit that along with your claim. It doesn't hurt. I think VA is going to get another exam either way, and that 100% rating is going to be, total occupational and social impairments. But I mean, it doesn't hurt if your doctor's going to do that. But if your doctor fills out a DBQ and it's, he fills it out and it's indicative of something like a 30% rating, that's not going to help you. That's, going to open the door for a possible reduction in the future. But it won't hurt. Okay, I'll take this one too. Thank you so much for answering our questions. You're welcome. We really appreciate your help. If I may ask, do you see disability rate reductions if you apply for TDIU or applying them to go to 70% to 100% rating? Yes, we do. It doesn't happen all the time. And again, it just depends on your case and what's kind of going on in it. Anytime that you file a claim for something, it gives VA the opportunity to look into your file. And if, previously you had a determination that things were getting better, and then they do another exam and they think that things have still gotten better, then they could go in and try to reduce. For the most part, when our clients are looking to get TDIU or 100% rating, we know based on their file whether or not they're at risk for reduction. With yours, I don't know really what it says, but I don't see it being an issue per se, especially if you haven't been working since 2023.
Yeah, and you've got a doctor behind you that's supporting your claim. That would help. If the doctor's willing to actually help rather than tell you what he thinks. Oh, my turn.
Yep.
I'm going to try this with my glasses on now and see if I can see a little better without squinting. Love USA 999. Do you think that the third-party contractors like Optum direct their MPs to return unfavorable CMP results for obstructive sleep apnea?
Oh, I'm so glad you got this one. Go ahead, lay it out there.
All right, so look, I don't know if, I don't consider myself a conspiracy theorist. I try to be rather pragmatic, but I also call bullshit when I see it. And I see some serious bullshit going on in sleep apnea claims. But that does not mean that the contractors are directing their examiners to issue negative opinions. Now, one thing I know is that, and you've heard me say this before, the one area of veterans law of disability examinations and medical opinions, however you want to put it, that is consistent throughout all the contractors is that they all issue negative opinions on sleep apnea. They all do it in similar ways. They all will turn themselves into pretzels trying to come up with a negative opinion. If you head one off at the pass and you have a good route to get something service connected, if they can come up with a complete opposite opinion from what they did the last time, they will do that. Just, it's maddening sometimes.
And it's so weird. Like, it's always the same wording. It's so weird. Like, all these individual people are like saying the exact same thing. It's like,
so communication has taken place amongst these examiners, whether it's through the contractors or not, we don't know. I know in the past, examiners have had listservs and things like that they could communicate with each other on. But that was inside VA. I don't know if they have anything like that with these examiners. So with the contractors, and I don't know. It would be I would love to be a fly on the wall. Because, oh man, the damage I could do, or would at least try to do, if I heard something like that. But I don't know. My gut tells me, yes, there is communication going on, because it cannot be a coincidence with every contractor, with every examiner, north, south, east, west, in the middle of the country. It doesn't matter. Okay, so, but what's going on and what's being said, I could only speculate. I do know the end result is usually a denied claim that we have to fight. And that's not to say we haven't seen examiners come out with favorable opinions. We have. It does not happen much, but we have seen it. It's just rare. There's my soapbox.
yep. Tim Kellerman, can you speak to the process and your firm's strategy to getting TDIU after an initial TDIU denial? I mean, I can talk about the process in general. I mean, we follow the process and procedure that VA has out there. But, typically we're going to read that denial and find out what they said. And sometimes there's a lot of information, sometimes there's not. We're going to go back through all of the exams and see what those examiners said. We're going to go through the medical records and see what the medical records say. And then we're going to probably appeal it unless we, for some reason, agree with the denial. And I don't think there is a strategy on what route to go. I think it depends on the reason for the denial and what's inside the file and what evidence was reviewed. So I know that's not helpful, but sometimes we need to submit additional evidence. And so we would go supplemental. Sometimes it's so ridiculous that we're just like, send this to higher level review, and I want to talk to the person that made this decision. And sometimes the answer is go to the board. Sometimes the answer is get a vocational expert opinion. So I don't have a cookie cutter kind of process. It depends on what the decisions say and what the file says.
Yeah. Well, because there is no cookie cutter process, right? Every case is different. There's no one strategy. If there's 100 cases, there's 100 strategies. And that's pretty much it. Another step, part 1 of 2, done. Thanks to OSA secondary to rhinitis, I'm now 100%. It is my understanding that the only thing I should apply for now on my hypertension, as if it could benefit DIC, and anything that could bring me to a 50% or better rating in the event of an attendance for SMCL as part of the Bradley case that Carol mentioned last week. Is this correct? All right, stop reading the Bradley case. And this, I mean, I don't mean that rudely, but no, the Bradley case is not going to help you here. Go back to the first part. All right, so, all right, you got 100%. the sleep apnea brought you to 100%. That means you're 100% based on multiple disabilities. So Bradley's out the window, all right, on that basis alone. And if you're permanent and total, you know, do you really have to apply for anything else? I know you mentioned the hypertension for DIC, but you know, there's a few things I would ask there. How long did it go back? What all are you service connected for? You know, the DI, going for the DI, is the hypertension going to be the only thing that gets your spouse DIC? Is there something else you're already service connected for? Unless you really needed that hypertension, and it looked like your death was going to be cardiovascular related, yeah, I might go for that. If there's something else that could play into that same scenario that's cardiovascular related, that's already service connected, yeah, I might leave it alone. If hypertension caused a heart attack and you're service connected for sleep apnea, well, one of the main results of sleep apnea is hypertension. So, you know, the point is, sounds like you probably could get successful DIC for your spouse once you pass away, if hypertension is all you're concerned about. And I just say that with caution because, like I said, all the time, you're getting another set of eyes on your case. For what? You know, in today's world, you might want to leave well enough alone just to be safe. And that's just sort of my opinion on it. So, Ursula, you have anything else? Did I not answer any of that?
Yeah, I think you did. I think you got all of it. So if you already had pending claims that were going, I would file for the hypertension. And this is just me as a representative for that reason, because it can lead to other things. If you're done with your claims and there's nothing, I don't think that it's worth it, because you could have them looking back in your file when they don't need to. And like Carrie said, it depends on, you know, what you die from in the end. And you may not even need service connection. If you have 100% permanent and total for long enough, you're going to get, your spouse is going to get DIC no matter what. But I just lost my train of thought. Today's my turn too.
It's contagious today. I'm telling
Yeah. Oh yeah. Now I remember. But the thing is, like, and I want people to understand that when it comes to DIC, you don't have to have everything service connected or as much as you can in order to set that up. Let's say you don't get the hypertension service connected and you end up dying from a cardiovascular issue. Your spouse can come in and they can assert that you had hypertension that was related to service, which caused your cardiovascular disease, which led to your death. So they can come in and assert those same theories and get you service connected after the fact in order to get the death benefit. So don't think you have to front load everything just for that purpose.
Yeah. Well said. Is it my turn? I think it's
Yep.
my turn. All right. Happiness. Hey guys, if the caregiver is out of work due to disability, they probably can't be paid by a caregiver program as well, right? All right. You know what? I'm going to say the truth here. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Don't spread that around. I don't admit that much. I'm going to let Ursula try to answer that. So, don't tell anybody. Don't tell your friends. Kerry said he didn't know. I try to keep that hidden sometimes.
So I don't actually know that answer either. I don't know that matters entirely, because they go through and will give you they will interview the caregiver as well. And if the caregiver is able to do the job that's required, then I don't see it really being an issue. I mean, there are people who are caregivers that don't work at all, or maybe they are getting Social Security for retirement. I mean, I don't know. I think it depends on what the issues are. I haven't seen a flat out anything like that. I don't think there's a rule that says anything like that.
So look at the second part here. I still work, but just found out I have peripheral neuropathy and fibromyalgia, as we have been helping my husband find out his illness. So that was find out his illness. So that was lucky, waiting on. All right. Well, I mean, it sounds like you should be fine. Just because you have your own disability, if you can do the work that the caregiver program requires, you should be good. And if you are the caregiver and you become temporarily unable to do it, I would think you'd still be good. And just because you're diagnosed with something, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to be the caregiver.
Grace Smith, thank you as always. If arrested and null process case came during service, would that be considered mental health? Like as the event, especially like murder or rape. So can we go back to the first part? So if someone was arrested during service by civilian police and then they decided not to continue to prosecute, that could be depending. It could be the manifestation of the mental health condition. Let's say it's something, like manic or schizophrenia or something like that, and it caused them to behave that way, and it was not like anything they'd ever done before. It could be considered the in-service event or the stressor or the manifestation of what led to what is now a mental health diagnosis. It could be considered a mental health claim if there's a current diagnosis now, and that was kind of started during this whole null process of the case. I don't think it even matters really what the charges were. It could have been that they were speeding and, it could be like a stressor or a marker or something, depends.
Can you go to that second one again?
So he or she was arrested for like murder or rape.
Okay, so yeah, I wasn't sure if you were saying the arrest was due to murder or rape, or and who's the victim. It was throwing me off there. But could I add something to this, because
of course.
Ursula's right. She said it could be really, just the arrest in general. Okay, let's forget about what it's for. I mean, if you as a vet are arrested for murder and rape and then try to claim that as a stressor, and I don't know if that's what you're saying here. I don't think that's going to fly myself, because murder and rape is against the law, and VA is going to say that's probably not in the line of duty. But that's also what I would say about any arrest, that you could run into a situation where the reason that led you to be arrested, unless it was some false arrest or something, whatever that event may have been, could have been not in the line of duty, because typically if you're doing something illegal while in the military, the military is going to say it's not in the line of duty. And even if you go to VA with it and the military didn't say anything about it, VA could still say it's not in the line of duty. So have your ducks in a row. That's not I don't want to talk bad about the question. It's not a strong claim, in my opinion, to try to say, well, I was arrested. I did something wrong. I was arrested. Now I want you to count that as a stressor so that I can get benefits. That's a tough sell. now if you were falsely arrested and accused and you didn't, that's a different scenario there. I think that could be a stressor. So the distinction is important to make to VA, because they're humans and they're going to look at it and go, okay, where are we really going with this? Do you agree with that, Ursula?
I do. Yeah. All right, we're going to do like one, maybe two more questions. Crystal Smith, have a veteran that was stationed in BC5 NAHJ Okinawa as an AC electrician. He died of metastatic esophageal cancer. Have you found concrete evidence of asbestos exposure causing this cancer?
Concrete?
No, I mean, I haven't, I don't even know if I've done esophageal cancer to asbestos. It's not one that if I have done it, I haven't done it very often, and I would have to look that up.
I've seen them, not very often myself, but I have seen them before.
Yeah. That would take probably an occupational physician or something to write that, to be able to take all of, the studies and things that are out there for that and kind of compile it and put it all together. Yeah. But, an AC electrician, depending on when he served, there could have been other types of exposures to things like solvents, cleaning products, things like that, that might be more than just the asbestos exposure that could also lead to the development of the esophageal cancer. So,
yeah, I mean, just about in any situation, an aircraft electrician, you're talking lubricants, hydraulic fuels, especially solvents, TCE, depending on the years that he served. TCE is a big one. I would add all that to the asbestos. I have seen people prevail on those cases. It's rare as far as just asbestos goes. But one thing we see, I'll say a lot, but we see a regular amount of esophageal cancer cases. And the experts that we usually deal with usually ask the similar sets of questions. Was the veteran a smoker? Was the veteran a drinker? It seems like those two things in combination can significantly increase the risk of that specific cancer. And there's, whether it's adenocarcinoma or the other one, one seems to raise the risk more than another. So, may want to do some research there, because VA examiners, I guarantee you, won't do that research and think, oh, you smoked for 6 months 50 years ago. Well, there's the reason for your esophageal cancer, even though it might be a different type of cancer that smoking usually causes, even though after that long a period, it has no effect whatsoever. So, you might want to know what you're getting into there. And if there was none of those things, then that's important to make clear in the claim. If you're doing this yourself, especially, that here's the claim, here's what it's based on. It's a non-smoker, non-drinker, or casual, whatever it may be, that's going to help you lay that out up front in the case when it comes to esophageal cancer.
All right, we'll do one more. How about that? One more, last one. And the winner is C. Winnie. I guess. Winnie, you can take it. Yep, you can do it.
Quinny. If filing a secondary claim, should VA consider all service-connected conditions, even if you don't mention them in your claim? Okay, that's actually a good question. So VA has a duty to consider, quote, all theories of entitlement, end quote.
Do they? Do they do that?
Do they, Ursula?
I don't think they do very often.
No,
I know they do.
They usually today won't even consider the theory that you present and will deny the case on some other theory. Yes, they're supposed to consider all theories of entitlement, but do not rely on that. Make that part of your claim. If you filed your claim and you haven't got a decision and you need to clarify it, clarify it. They're not going to, you can make the claim just that service connection on a secondary basis, based on all my other service connected conditions, whatever they may be. I don't know where that's going to get you. If you've got lots of them, it's best to narrow it down a little bit, but yeah, it is what it is.
Yep. So that's about it.
What it is.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Carrie and I are going to go back to work now. We'll see someone else next week, probably.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. All right. Have a good one. Thanks for joining us, everybody.